It happened, folks. Windows collected information on somebody and created the criminal complaint that led to somebody's arrest. Thanks for checking out this video by Switched to Linux. If you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us a like and a comment down below. And of course, I talk a lot about the biggest reason I left Windows is the lack of the ability to turn off that telemetry and constantly collecting data. I'm sorry, I just want privacy. Now, I'm not a person that's committing crimes over here, but just because I may or may not be does not mean I want some operating system collecting everything I'm doing. There's that old nonsense trope. Well, if you're not doing anything wrong, bro. You know what? The problem is we have corrupt politicians, corrupt government, and weirdos who put things into law that shouldn't be in the law. And you do not know if what you're doing is basic common sense lawful living becomes illegal tomorrow, and then there's a long 20-year history of everything that going on your computer being collected that automatically gets turned against you, and then you find yourself arrested for something that you did that was completely lawful when you did it. This is not an outrageous thing. Now, the biggest challenge with this is that the guy who they arrested with this data was guilty as sin. So if you find yourself defending him or this position, you're in this difficult situation where it's like, what, you just want hackers to get away with stuff? No, I don't. I think that the hackers should indeed go to jail, but I also think that in this particular case, there was plenty of evidence against this guy that you did not need Microsoft to be the one collecting data and making the actual referral for law enforcement to get involved. That is crazy. And what we're going to see here is, yes, this is a legitimate criminal. Like, he's not yet convicted in the law. So we have to say alleged. Okay. But the indictment, the unsealed indictment is very, very damning. And he's going to have a really hard time with this one getting off. I'd just recommend some form of plea deal. But that being said, I do not think that the operating system should be the one making the criminal complaint. And that is what we want to get into today. This deals with a scattered spider case. 19-year-old scattered spider suspect extradited to face U.S. hacking charges. So this is a teenager belonging to the Scattered Spider Group has been extradited from Finland to face U.S. charges on conspiracy, computer intrusion, and fraud, according to the U.S. Department of Justice on July 1st. This is Peter Stokes. He's a dual citizen of United States and Estonia. He appears in a Chicago federal court on June 30th, where a judge ordered him held in custody. Finnish police arrested him in April on an Interpol red notice on an international arrest request before his extradition in late June. His case is the latest of a run of arrests targeting a crew tied to breaches at casinos, retailers, and airlines. Come on, you guys didn't see Ocean 11? Don't mess with the casinos, you know? The court records identify him as the online handle Bouquet, and described at least 4 intrusions. The first when he was 16 years old. In one case in May 2025, prosecutors say he and others broke into a luxury jewelry retailer, copied its data, and demanded $8 million in cryptocurrency. So who is this guy? We're not going to go into a whole lot of his background because this isn't really a situation about this particular case. What I wanted to actually get into here, and I have the releases here, which has a lot of the same information. What I want to look at is the criminal indictment here. And this is United States of America versus Peter Stokes, also known as Bouquet, Spencer, and Jordan. So it was initially under seal, but it was unsealed. And then there's a number of different charges here. There's a count here, conspiring and agreeing with others, known and unknown, to defraud the United States to commit offenses, basically computer hacking stuff. Again, what these guys did is completely wrong. He needs the book thrown at him. But my argument here is based on reading, and I took the time to read this whole thing, and it was fascinating. But there's enough evidence to convict him without. What happened is it started because of Microsoft's operating system collected information on him. and snitched him out. And he used VPNs, and he covered his tracks. He did a lot of good things. He was just using Windows. So the probable cause here, 1 through 5 is just definitions. So I skipped through all the definitions. So the FBI is investigating subject offenses committed by cyber group known as Scattered Spider, also known as Octotempest. Peter Stokes, who's gone by the monikers Boquette and Jordan, at the relevant times resided in Estonia and the United Arab Emirates, and is a member of Scattered Spider, responsible for multiple computer intrusions. So they were investigating these based on the casino and the jewelry, among other hacking targets. They identify Scattered Spider. Now the question is, who are the people behind it? So where this all came from is a referral for Microsoft. This isn't the police reached out to Microsoft to say, hey, give us information. This is Microsoft collected a bunch of data, put it all together and said, hey, government, look at this guy. Okay. Now, to be clear, this isn't just the operating system. This individual was handling a lot of files known to be involved in the Scattered Spider attacks, and then they tied it to the GDID of his computer. This is the local device identifier, which is unique to your particular computer on your particular install. So set forth below criminal referrals from Microsoft, provider records from previous victim intrusions, and records from subject server 1 shows that Stokes engaged in subject offenses. In addition, and more specifically, Stokes and likely other conspirators breached Company F, which is the jewelry store, made a ransom of $8 million in cryptocurrency around May of 2025. So how'd this come from? Stokes created an account from a VPN proxy service with an IP address ending in 168 and Microsoft identifier described below, tying that GDID of his Microsoft computer with the 168 IP address. So this is just a bunch of background about him. Now, like I said earlier that there was plenty of other evidence to convict him. This is a 19-year-old guy who's flashing cash in luxurious hotels. I mean, it looked like if you've ever seen Catch Me If You Can, and you got the 19-year-old Leonardo DiCaprio hanging out with, thousands and thousands of dollars in checks inside these motels. Yeah, and don't forget, he is apparently a joint United States citizen. So there's clearly enough evidence to look into, how does this guy have all this cash in these luxurious hotels? Just asking questions here. Now, I do have questions about his otherwise family background. He may just indeed come from wealth. I don't know why else a 19-year-old would have joint citizenship with the United States and Estonia and also reside in the UAE. That's also interesting to me. Now, if he just came from a standard United States middle-class background, and 19, he's doing all that, you have some serious things you can look into without your operating system spying on you. But point 10 here, in addition to the criminal referrals made by Microsoft, implicates Stokes. For example, on October 2024, Microsoft said Microsoft's analysts have identified information about Persona Spencer, who is this guy, a likely operator for Octotempest and their associated accounts. Persona Spencer handles malware associated with Octotempest and has handled files associated with Persona. Persona's Spencer is likely true name Peter Stokes, probably lives in Tallinn, Estonia. Microsoft analysts have observed online services telemetry associated with Persona Spencer that indicates likely involvement in dozens of recent Octotempest intrusions. So they knew everything about him. They knew his phones. They knew his other social media accounts. They knew everything because of tying to that one Microsoft GDID. And what's interesting here is this little footnote here I thought was interesting as well. Cybersecurity researchers at Microsoft, through the course of their job, have access to data such as computer machine IDs, IP addresses, malware samples associated with sophisticated cyber groups. Researchers' function is to identify groups of hackers who appear to operate as a team/cohesive unit. The researchers do this by identifying malicious activity conducted against innocent victims and then identify the computers used to conduct the attacks. The researchers then identify colleagues of the hacker by finding other computers who also access the same IP addresses used by those initially identified as hacker. So basically they're saying is, yeah, we have access to all of this information on all these guys' computers and we can just backtrack it all. This is just Microsoft guys because they have all this intimate data that your computer is feeding up to the servers that you can't turn off. This is kind of a smoking gun for how bad the data collection happens to be. There's a bunch of other information about him. Now, this is, again, some of the other evidence against him. This is an Instagram photo he posted up. He's wearing this diamondish necklace that says "Hack the Planet." He posted this up on, I believe it was on his Instagram. They had a bunch of other things. This is apparently a meme sent out. Here's them kind of mocking the people in charge, the FBI agents, things like that. Here's a bunch of just failed attempts with, another colorful meme statement there. Now, what they did here is they looked at various subject servers. So this is a VPS with an IP address ending in 191. And what they ended up showing is that this address was tied to that GDID number there. And effectively then they used that and then they backtracked everything from here. And they did here's some more information here. According to Microsoft, the ngrok account was set up through the same GDID attached to everything else the guy is doing. Here's another one. This is the unique identifier of the installation of Windows on a device. GDID remains constant across Windows operating systems on device, but a reinstall of Windows either on the same device or a different device will be tied to a new GDID. There's some other things identifying this same exact system, saying, hey, this is this guy's computer, this is his install, and he's doing all sorts of crazy things. These are just a number of cases. There's 18 instances which GDID appears inside of the account, all tied to various things. Now, the other thing that they did, here's him flashing a bunch of cash in a luxurious hotel. They had him travel records, traveling all over the world. A 19-year-old, what's he doing? Traveling all over the world. So there was plenty of actually evidence against him. Now, based on all this, I got to find the IP address list. This was it here. So based upon all this information that Microsoft did, they reverse searched all of these, and this gave them other IPs to seek warrants on. Now, this is where the FBI got warrants. And that's the thing I want to make clear. Microsoft collected all this information and just handed on off to the government without actually having any warrants. They didn't even have an ask from the FBI. It's just, hey, we've identified something suspicious. What's suspicious? Well, this guy is creating a VPN. He has a VPS server, and this server may be interacting with other things. Now, if the FBI looked at the hacking on the casino and on the jewelry store and identified this server and then issued a warrant, and then they go back to Microsoft with a warrant to say, hey, what can access this? I'm perfectly okay with Microsoft handing over some form of information. But A, I don't think Microsoft should be collecting all this information. And B, I don't think that they should be proactively handing it on over just because they notice something that seems suspicious. Because I got fun news for you. I have a VPS that runs a VPN, and I use it because as I traveled the country, I frequently found myself in coffee shops, and I wanted to make sure I was secure and I'm not buying NordVPN or whatever else. I have my own VPN because a VPN isn't about privacy anyway. That's not its purpose. It is about security. I needed to secure my networks while I'm at a coffee shop. And so I spun up my own VPN on my own VPS which was cloud serviced at Linode, I believe that one is. And, does that mean that if I were doing that on a Microsoft computer, they'd be passing my name to the FBI for the FBI to be looking at what's this guy up to? I don't know. And that's the fundamental problem that I have here with this case. So yeah, this hacker is probably guilty as sin. And I wish the prosecution luck throwing the book at him. I think he does need to spend a lot of time in jail. But I think that there were many other legal means with warrants involved and clean investigations that could have led to this without the Microsoft computer tying the GDID to the VPN that he's using, among other things. And then for Microsoft to look at this, go, hey, let's look at this guy, FBI. I just think that Microsoft should stay out of it until they're being asked. But I also think Microsoft is collecting way too much information on people. So if you've been looking for a reason to get off, and I'm not saying switch to Linux so you can commit crimes. That would be ridiculous. Do not do that. Do not commit crimes. It is stupid to do. You will get caught. You will go to jail, and I will do a video about it, and I will laugh at you too. Okay? That's fine. I am not pro-criminal. I am not pro-hacking. I am anti, however, your operating system doing all these back-end connections and then calling the FBI to go, hey, this guy seems to be doing something suspicious. No, you got to wait for the FBI to come in and start looking, but you also can't have a system put together that builds a dossier as big as you did on this individual. And so that's really what I wanted to talk about here today is, yes, now we have a real world case of people doing suspicious things like building VPNs and accessing VPS servers. That will apparently flag you as suspicious to Microsoft, and they might just hand your name over to some law enforcement just to see if you're doing something wrong. You know what law enforcement likes to do? As soon as they think something might be going wrong, they have to prove it. And that is in and of itself a fundamental problem. So there's my thoughts on this video. Let me know your thoughts. Did you quite see Windows spying on you this much? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.